So I wanted to talk about absurdism and manifesting, okay? The way this is going to work, it's going to be two kind of parts. The first is introducing absurdism and the tenets of it, the stories behind it, the allegory of it. And then the second is really tying it up in a knot and tying the two concepts together. Although in the first part, you'll kind of start to very quickly see where it all correlates. So, absurdism, and by the way, it's a sect of philosophy. I would say that I am an absurdist through and through. It was sort of coined and started by Albert Camus in the book The Myth of Sisyphus, which many are familiar, but if you're not, it is this story of a man who is forever stuck pushing a rock up a hill that will constantly fall back down the hill. And he is compelled to keep doing it. Now, the deeper story of the book is that effectively, he has a mission in pushing the boulder up the hill. He gets to come back to Earth, if I'm not mistaken, and complete this sense of revenge that he wants to enact. And so it's his pride that makes him keep pushing the rock up the hill, and it's a purpose that God has given him. Although God inherently knows that this in and of itself doesn't mean anything because he will never finish it. He will never actually bring it through. But one of the interesting things that Camus points to is that you must think, and I'm paraphrasing, but you must think that Sisyphus is happy. For it is like the pursuit of a goal that makes a man feel content. And that inherently, in and of itself, has so much wisdom packed into it. It's been echoed in other places. I've heard it from Tony Robbins. I used to work for him. And that's one thing that he says, is that progress is where joy is. Progress is where your happiness lies. It's not actually on the fulfillment of a goal. Which is really, like, in and of itself, and a very, you could think about that for hours, right? So, with that all said, the natural next question for everyone that is exposed to this is, if life is meaningless, then why do anything at all? And it's a great point. There's sort of these stages. In nihilism, I believe there's something similar where there's this, he uses animals, and it's like the mother, the child, the sheep, the lion, these kind of like these stages that you go through with absurdism. First is probably like a very deep depression, to which Camus sort of addresses this, and again, I'm paraphrasing this quote, but in your darkest winters, you find an eternal summer. And in this depression, in this darkness, you find the joy that's actually lasting and eternal outside of external circumstance. But once you accept that inherently the outcome is irrelevant, there's incredible freedom and a sense of beginning that starts for your life, where with exaltation and ecstasy, nothing matters. And as the world gets more complicated, I talked about AI in another video because it's freaky to me, like how much it continues, like how this is insane, this is absurd. It is absurd that the world works this way. Your corporate job and them yelling at you, like, it doesn't matter. And there's a peace in this place where you're like, to which then you create meaning that's derived. It's meaning that matters to you, because you're inherently in a world where if you don't dictate your own meaning, the meaning of what other people think you should be doing becomes the point. To back to Sisyphus, his pride and the sense of revenge and this thing that inherently doesn't matter is what keeps him stuck in an actual loop of meaninglessness. Do you see what I'm saying? And even, okay, so yes, Your pride and your own sense of significance and wanting to do something in the world is why you want to do it. Inherently, if you choose to believe that the way that you're perceived in this world has meaning, then sure. But you have to understand that the world is inherently, you get what I'm saying? Okay, so you get to choose what you want and what meaning your life has, which opens up a lot of doors and questions. And even better though, because the world is inherently absurd, I'm a spiritual person, I will now start kind of slowly moving into the manifestation part of this. The way that anything can happen is also absurd. It doesn't have to make any sense. So how it happens is irrelevant. And if you can understand that just the pursuit of the journey is inherently most of the satisfaction of it, and that the outcome will not actually bring you what you really want, which is happiness. And also, for what it's worth, think back to another time that you got what you wanted. And in the wise words of Miley Cyrus, there's just going to be another mountain and you're going to want to make it move. And that's what happened, you know? And so the reason to step forward, because life is inherently worth living, there is still so much joy and satisfaction in pushing your rock up the hill. Still. There is a great teaching across all spiritual communities of this law of detachment. But people don't, the premise of detachment works for lots of people. Like, just if you don't need the outcome anymore, it's more likely to come to you. And without fail, this works every single time for me. The second I truly let something go, it ends up happening. Okay? Many people can deduce this to, like, let's say they want a certain guy. They will say, oh, well, if I don't get him, I can get someone else. I can detach from him. And that totally works. But let's go to the core of it all. And this is where absurdism has really worked for me. What if it just doesn't matter? Like, what if it doesn't matter at all? If I end up with someone or I don't, like, it's all inherently irrelevant because my joy is dictated by me and what I choose to make of that. So what if nothing of it, you know what I mean? Does it matter if I get that job? No, because there's tons of jobs. I don't even have to work at all. I could just like sit in the fucking, you can go to a Buddhist monastery right now and chill. That's an option. Like, there's so many ways, absurd ways for you to live. An endless amount of options. And again, on this earth, I think, okay, once again, the goal is to be happy, but I think there's something deeper that everyone's looking for. And in spiritual communities, it's kind of known as enlightenment. I sort of wonder if even that higher pursuit of peace is in itself pushing a rock up a hill. There's a book by Byron Katie, Accepting What Is. And she says, which I really thought this was interesting, that enlightenment, and for anyone that's not familiar or would understand the appeal of enlightenment, it's sort of this, it's mostly seen as this perceived I've done it. I no longer struggle. I no longer feel pain is sort of the you know, je ne sais quoi of it, that like, oh my God, is that even possible feeling? Where I suddenly want for nothing and I'm just happy and content no matter what. Byron Katie makes the point that enlightenment is something that you come to again and again and again based on choice. It is not actually a destination. It's a journey. So even then, if she's right, which I think I've done a lot of, you know, spiritual stuff, I do think that she has an excellent point. So here's the summation of how to use this to get what you want. You can set your sights on something that you choose and that matters to you. It has meaning for you, and that's enough. But yet realize that it actually happening doesn't have to be the case. There's probably a dozen ways for you to acquire the feeling of what you want, which is happiness or joy or satisfaction. Feel intensely the desire, the emotion, the end result fulfilled, Neville Goddard kind of stuff. If you ever want to look into his work, it's incredible. Feeling the wish of the fulfillment of the wish, whatever, feeling the wish fulfilled, okay? And then detaching from it, going back to the feeling, detaching, and in time, probably very little time, you will get what you want. It's an equation that's worked dozens of times for me. And what's even more interesting, as someone who has lived a really incredible life, and I've gotten many things I've wanted over and over and over and over and over again. I moved to New York City, I traveled the world, I had amazing partners, I flew private, I attended events I've always wanted to go to, I met people I always wanted to meet, like really a truly, truly glorious life. Every time you go to push your rock up the hill, it is no different. It's no different. It's literally the same feeling every single time that you're like, is there any way this is going to happen? Is it really going to work this time? This? Are we sure? But it's that pursuit that does make life fun. And I think inherently, for me, having fun is meaningful. So that's that. I'm going to finish this painting on absurdism very quickly, and I will show you that in the end. So let me show you. Okay, so we've got, okay, this is if Sisyphus was a cat, because the truth is that a cat probably just wouldn't do it. This is a cat reading a book and a ball of yarn. There is theoretically the option that you could just let go of all your pride and desires entirely, your ego completely, and just resort yourself to doing nothing. It's an option. It's not my option, but it would free you from pushing your rock up the hill, right? And then this is based off of the cover of The Stranger, and it's a cat having an existential crisis, perhaps. Whatever you think he's doing. So I realize this has sort of been a cynic's hour. So I'm going to close this with an actual quote, a direct quote. I looked it up for you guys. So from Camus, the realization that life is absurd cannot be an end, but only the beginning. And I think it is true that the freedom that this rhetoric gives you to pursue absolutely anything, whatever you can think, you can do, because it's all an option, is the epitome of freedom. So, I'm excited for what you're going to do, and thanks for hanging out.